Turns out God has terrible business sense. Thank God. At least to hear Jesus tell it. If you didn't know it already, if you hadn't already gotten a glimpse of the sheer extravagance of God's economy of grace, the sheer recklessness and audacity of God's generosity even to stinkers and people who can't ever pay God back, Jesus reminds us that God's way of doing things, God's economy of grace, runs completely counter to the conventional wisdom of the talking heads on business news and at the end of the Dow Jones report every day. To hear Jesus tell it, God is always willing to recklessly spend more in celebrating the recovery of those who are lost than in just writing off a business loss in the first place. Here's what I mean. We're going to hear this coming Sunday, these parables of Jesus that come from the 15th chapter of Luke's Gospel, and it's sort of set in this context. Now, all the tax collectors and sinners were coming near and listening to him, and the Pharisees and the scribes were grumbling and saying, "This fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them." So he told them this parable. "Which one of you, having 100 sheep and losing one of them, does not leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after the one that is lost until he finds it? When he has found it, he lays it on his shoulders and rejoices. And when he comes home, he calls together his friends and neighbors, saying to them, 'Rejoice with me, for I have found my sheep that was lost.' Just so I tell you, there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who need no repentance. Or what woman, having 10 silver coins, if she loses one of them, does not light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it? When she has found it, she calls together her friends and neighbors, saying, 'Rejoice with me, for I have found the coin that I had lost.' Just so, I tell you, there is joy in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents." Those stories are, in a sense, laughable, right? Who, when you lose something, calls attention to the fact that you lost it, and then decides it's worth going to expend all sorts of energy and probably money to go search for the thing that's lost, and then once you find it, throw a party, inviting the friends and neighbors over to celebrate with you? It doesn't make good business sense, right? In either of Jesus' stories, it's almost comical, it's almost absurd, the length that the celebrating person goes to when they've found the thing that was lost, right? A shepherd who's got a flock of 100 sheep, you've got to know there's going to be losses from time to time. You've got to know that at some point a sheep's going to get sick or it's going to get eaten by a wolf. You have to build into your business model there's going to be losses, and at some point you just cut your losses. After all, with sheep you can make more sheep, right? Get more, right? Put them together, leave them alone for a while, you'll get yourself more sheep. If one is lost and you can keep the other 99 safe, good business sense says just write off the loss, right? What's one sheep? But maybe if it's not about making a profit, but that you actually care for what is lost, you are willing to go seek after the one that's lost. And then, as Jesus says, once you found the sheep, to go telling friends and neighbors, "Hey, let's celebrate, the sheep that was lost has been found." What does it cost to throw a party, to invite your friends and neighbors to welcome back the lost sheep? Probably more than the value of one sheep. That's terrible business sense, but it's fantastic care for your sheep and a fantastic sense of appreciating the value of who and what is lost. Jesus' other parable is equally preposterously graceful. Imagine this woman who's got 10 coins, right? She loses one. That's a sizable piece that she loses, right? That 1 out of 10, that's 10% of this sort of nest egg she's got. But once she sweeps the house and finds it, she doesn't just quietly put it back in her pocket and go, "Phew, that was a close call." She celebrates with her friends. And who does that, right? When I can't find the remote control to my television, I don't go throwing a party or calling up my friends and say, "Hey, I lost the remote, but I found it. It's okay. It was in the couch cushions," or someone had kicked it onto the floor or something like that. I move on. I got it and I move on. But Jesus tells a story about reckless, audacious joy. And surely a celebration inviting friends and neighbors costs more than the value of one coin. That doesn't make good business sense. But God's economy has never never quite lined up with what the world and conventional wisdom calls good business sense. God always runs things on the sheer power of grace, of love for those who feel like they've been lost or fallen through the cracks, for the ones who got themselves entangled in thorns or got lost along the way and feel like they are forgotten. God always cares more about each one of us that way, even if that upsets the respectable religious people. That's the other piece about Jesus' stories. These aren't just like interesting fables. Jesus tells these stories deliberately as a shot across the bow against the respectable religious people who are upset that Jesus is attracting all the wrong kind of people. People who have a bad reputation, people who are known for being rule breakers, people who are known for sinning, people whose whole lives and lifestyles are oriented away from God, whereas the respectable religious people are wondering, hey, what about us? Are we chopped liver? And Jesus insists, in God's economy, it is always worth whatever effort it takes to seek out people who feel like they're lost, like they fell through the cracks or slipped in between the couch cushions. Jesus says God doesn't give up seeking for any of us. The question for you and for me then, if Jesus is convinced this is what God is like, is who will we be in light of this? What kind of people will we be? What kind of community will we be? What kind of church will we be? Because, man, it is so easy to write people off in this day and age, right? Haven't seen them for a while. Doesn't really matter. They're not my kind of people. It's so easy to treat those people, however you're going to fill that in or describe that. Those people, we don't really want those kind of people in our church anyway. It is so easy to imagine there's a whole group of people who are different from me that I don't really want to come to church after all, because my church is sort of like a nice little country club, a social club where people who are like me attend. Jesus has no picture of his community that looks like that. Jesus instead always surrounds himself with the people who feel like they get lost somewhere between the couch cushions, who slipped through the cracks and are wondering if anybody's seeking out for them. Jesus insists God is seeking out for them. But what kind of people will we be? And how will we reach out and refuse to give up on inviting, on calling, on seeking? And rather than waiting for other people to come to us, how will we reach out, right? If you're the shepherd and you've got a lost sheep, I suppose you could just stay at home and say, well, if he's a good enough sheep, he'll find his way back home. Or sitting on your couch or at your dinner table saying, well, my lost coin, if it's really so important, it better find its way back here. That's not how it works, right? God's not waiting around for us to make the first move. God is actively seeking, has sought you and me from before we were aware of it. And of course then, God sends us out to be ones who reach out in unconditional, utter, and audacious love for people all around us. Not just people who are like us or look like us or act like us or vote like us or think like us, but people who are dramatically different in all sorts of ways, and to say this love is for you too. What kind of people will we be if we dare to become the kind of people who practice God's terrible business sense, which is a raucous, joyful celebration of grace all the way home? That's the conversation we're having this Sunday. Join us then.